created like God. A young lady in Europe ran away from home and traveled across the ocean to Tulsa, Oklahoma, just to talk to Daisy, my wife, and me. From childhood, her parents had told her she was stupid, that she could not learn, that she was unattractive, that she could never get a job, that she could never attract a husband. The more her parents said those things, the more they were engraved in her subconscious, and the more she acted out the part. Slavery of negativism. This lady had always lived at home, where she was dominated by a negative, destructive atmosphere. She became insecure, timid, withdrawn, and subjected. Her father and mother had succeeded in making a slave of their own daughter, simply by planting negative, destructive seeds in her mind. She was afraid to go out on the street alone. The only work she ever did was scrubbing floors. Had she been as stupid as her parents told her she was, she could never have pondered a trip to America, to CTL and Daisy Osborn. She had to secretly get her own passport and visa and arrange for her ticket. She was not dull-witted or unintelligent. She was just emotionally starved. She had been mentally devastated by cruel parents who were transferring their own self-hatred to the closest victim they could reach, their own daughter. What you talk is what you produce. Whether your words are positive or negative, they are seeds. They will produce, in your listeners, the type of people that you yourself are. Your words are your seeds, and they engender, in people, the character of whatever you speak. If you form the habit of talking about judgment and condemnation, you will produce those who judge and condemn you. If you pronounce criticism toward others, you will harvest the kind of people who will rise and criticize you. Whatever you sow in the minds of your listeners and in the minds of your family, you will personally reap. It is impossible to negate that law. Love power in action. We took that young European lady into our private prayer chamber and showed her love, esteem, and compassion. We could see that behind her emotionally scarred face was a brilliant, lovely lady who wanted to be somebody in life. She was extremely perceptive. She grabbed statements that lifted her self-esteem like a drowning person grabs a rope. Her mouth and face twitched and grimaced uncontrollably as she talked. Her head and shoulders twisted involuntarily. Her whole body reflected her emotional state. Almost anyone would have judged her unbalanced. Yet her only problem was the ugly negative words and thoughts that had been heaped upon her by her own parents, in her own home. The new confession. That young woman stood in our prayer room looking up to God. As tears rolled down her cheeks, I asked her to confess these things out loud. I am created in God's likeness. I am somebody important in God's eyes. He believes in me. He loves me and needs me. I am part of His plan. God loves me as much as He loves anyone else. Then we prayed with her, and when she returned to Europe, she was a new woman. She believed that she had a purpose for living, that she could succeed in life, that God was vitally interested in her, and that He valued her. She was thinking positive thoughts about herself, walking more uprightly, with her shoulders straight. She could smile. She had hope. She believed that God had a plan for her. She had a new outlook. Her whole life would change because her thoughts were changed. The battered, beaten penny. Just before she left, Daisy and I were on our 40-minute daily jogging course alongside the river in Tulsa, and I saw on the trail a battered, beaten penny. It was so scarred by the hundreds of vehicles that had rolled over it that you could hardly identify it. I picked it up, and as I held it in my hand, the Lord whispered to me, "That coin is worth as much as a beautiful, brand new, shining penny. Its value is the same. It is like that dear lady from Europe. Go tell her what I have said to you. Though she is scarred and battered by her parents and acquaintances, tell her she is as valuable as the most beautiful lady in Europe." I took that coin and placed it in her hands, and while she looked at it, I gave her God's message. Then while she held it, she repeated after me, "My life is like this battered coin, but I am as valuable as the most perfect and beautiful person in Europe." She promised to keep that coin with her Bible. She purposed that every time anyone would say anything derogatory to her, she would hold that battered coin and say, "My life is like this battered coin, but I am as valuable as the most perfect and beautiful person in Europe." The change that has taken place in her life has been miraculous. She discovered God's value. She discovered the facts that gave her self-esteem. She is God's creation. He loves her and paid a supreme price, the death of His own Son, to redeem her back to Him so that she and God could be at one again, could walk together again, and could share life again as he originally planned for her. That is what he planned for you, and it is he who caused me to write this book for you, so you can discover that you are God's best. I am created in the image of God, to be like him, to manifest him in human form. I am made for life and love, for power and prosperity, for success and progress, for dignity and divinity.